We came back from Finland, and that whole week we just grinded so fucking hard on these 3 songs. So hard, harder than anybody else.
And on the Integrity Tour.
And that was the first time we realized what the next album was going to be, and that's where it really solidified that it's like, we're doing this 3-song EP.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope that you've been having a great week. I most certainly have been. Before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I'm asking you to rate it and write a review, because when you do that, more metalheads just like yourself will be able to discover the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You should also sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXandHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive 1 email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened throughout the past week in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, including all the details for any episodes which I have dropped throughout that week, if I've been a guest on someone else's podcast, as well as the updated links for any live interview Thirsty Thursday virtual hangs, as well as the links to the Brutal Awakenings playlist, which is available on both Apple Music and Spotify, and is curated by my man Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself. Do yourself a favor, sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. Trust me, this is a party that you do not want to miss. Now, on today's episode, I'm with Mark Whelan and Andrew Budwey of Fuming Mouth. This is Vox and Hops episode number 251.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm with Mark Whelan and Andrew Budwey of Fuming Mouth. I am very, very stoked to be with you. As I just mentioned to you before we started recording this, my lovely, lovely Vox and Hops Thirsty Thursday gang are huge fans of you guys, and they've been talking about you guys for some months and months now. So when I had the opportunity to have a chat with you, it was an easy yes, and thanks to them, I've become a fan. So let's start with a very, very simple, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing very good. First off, Thirsty Thursday fans, what the fuck is up?
I love it.
Hell yeah.
Let's talk about how you guys coped with the glorious year of 2020.
Just buying so much music instrument. So many music instruments that we probably don't need, but just constantly just looking at gear, buying gear, playing gear, you know? I think that's how both of us have coped, for sure.
Is it almost like an addiction where you see something and you don't need it, you can't afford it, but you have to buy it?
I feel like there's just no end to things that we need. We're just like, oh, like this is the next thing. Like this is good. This is gonna make things easier or better, and it's always the next thing, you know.
Another distortion pedal. Yeah.
Keeps it interesting, though.
What would be the most recent piece of gear that you acquired?
Oh, flex it, grab it. The Fender, right?
Oh yeah, I got a Fender guitar.
But what else?
Not too long ago.
Very nice.
The Klon too.
I got the Klon. I got that Phase 90.
Oh,
I've been going nutty with it.
I haven't even seen it yet, dude.
Yeah, it's that orange one, the sparkly one.
But now I know you're talking about the sparkles.
Yeah,
this is my first time holding it.
EVH style, you know.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Good one. I've never had one before.
Very cool. You guys did have a very busy year. Sadly, you know, as with every touring musician, you got some shit taken away from you. That Acacia Strain tour looked so damn sick. Talk me through your whole mental steps going through that and having it taken away from you.
Dude, it was like the highest high. Like, I felt like we just were like so happy to be on tour, and then just hitting the lowest low where we really had to come to terms, like ourselves in the van, that this is not working. This is not going to work. We're not going to continue touring. And just seeing a lot of friends' bands tours get canceled before ours did while we were on the road. And yeah, it was really heavy, I'd say.
Brutal times.
It was a hard pill to swallow, but it was one. We were, if you want the long story of it, I mean, like there was a morning we were all in Texas, and like we just played a show the night before, and we realized the gravity of the situation. We all decided. I asked everyone. I was like, okay, I think we should take a vote. We took a hat, and it was yes to go home, and then no to keep going on the tour. And we all drew answers out of the hat.
Really?
Yeah. It was like really heavy because there was like a lot of people who were like, "Fuck this!" Like, let's go home. And there was a lot of people who were like in our van, like on our team. Road crew, band members, everyone that was like, "Let's keep going. Let's go home." And it was really hard to like decide. And eventually we came to the conclusion that we were going to go home, which was definitely the right conclusion, that's for sure.
Yeah. If we didn't make that choice, then it was coming very soon from outside the reality.
Exactly, and we would have been in a way worse position.
It was interesting too, because like I feel like when we left for that tour, it like obviously it was in the news, I think, because that tour started like it was like the very end of February of last year, so it was in the news and it was happening, but like it didn't cross my mind at the beginning of the tour that it was gonna like reach the scale that it did, I guess.
Our girlfriends knew. My girlfriend was like, you're coming home. This is getting canceled. I was like, what are you talking about?
Why are you so negative?
Yeah.
But, you guys will soar to higher heights. Even you guys are opening that one. By the time you guys go out next time, you won't be in that slot anymore. I can guarantee you that. Let's talk about beer. Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives, music, and craft beer. What beers do you guys have on your side there that you're drinking right now?
Well, Andrew, what are you drinking first?
I got Untold East by Northwest, which is like a super piney IPA. It's a brewery near me. I live in Rockland, which is like south of Boston, and this is out of Scituate, which is like a little closer to the shore. It's like a nicer, like coastal town. But I've actually never had this before. My girlfriend picked it out. She loves this brewery, so
very cool.
It's super piney. It's super like West Coast, like pretty bitter, but like I like that. I like the East Coast style a little bit more, probably, but I guess different times,
There's a beer for every moment.
It's true. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Sometimes you need multiple beers for multiple moments happening at once. And speaking of that, I'm currently drinking a Solid Wall of Sound. But what I want to bring out, which we got for this interview for you, Matt, specifically, is our Zombie Dust.
Oh, hell yeah. I've had a bunch of those. Oh, of course, yes, yeah.
We do not. This is our first time, and we're cracking these open. What do we have in store for us?
It will be a beautiful tropical aroma, a mild bitter bite, really like closer to that piney West Coast, but it still's got a very citrusy, amazing, delicious bite. 3 Floyds, of course. I had a bunch of those because when I was on tour with Cannibal Corpse and Obituary, I was sharing a bus with Obituary, and the great people at 3 Floyds brought out a bunch of hopped and halves for Obituary, and they also gave a whole bunch of other brews, and they had some Zombie Dust, and Cryptopsy, being the monsters that we are, we drank all of Obituary's brews. With their permission, because they're the coolest dudes ever. We would just keep like digging into the cooler and like picking up and like looking at them, and Don would be just drink it, just do it.
Well, in his name, just drink it. Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. On my side, I am taking it a little bit easy, but I'm drinking a delicious non-alcoholic brew. This is an IPA from a great brewery here in Montreal called Bière Sans Alcool, which means beer with no alcohol. It has 0.5% ABV, and it's amazing. I really, really like this. It's this whole new non-alcoholic beer thing that's happening in 2021. The end of 2020 into 2021 is very exciting for me. You get the full flavor, but without any of the disastrous effects that sometimes alcohol has. Let's talk about your first beers, though. Do you remember the first beers you guys ever drank?
Oh, absolutely. You want to go first?
I just had a Sierra Nevada was the first one that I had, which is what my parents drank, and I was just like a kid, fucking going in their fridge, you know.
You're a lucky man. That's a good first beer right there.
I feel like it was pretty bitter for a first beer, because it's like, now even like, that's definitely on the bitter side of beer. I still drink those, like, not all the time, but like fairly often.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's definitely on the bitter side of what I drink now. So I'm like, it's funny to think of myself being like a kid and being like, I guess I was also getting drunk for the first time. So I'm like,
that was definitely one of the beers that changed my mind about what beer could be. The Sierra Nevada, of course. I remember being on Summer Slaughter 2008. I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but being in Atlanta at the Masquerade.
I was there in Worcester.
Oh, yes. That was no, I remember that gig. No, it wasn't the first gig, but I remember the gig 100%. That's the night that Flo had some I think he was using Vic Firth at the time. I think he still does. And he had a rep come out that gave him drumsticks where the tips glue. There was little lights in them. That's the only time he's ever used them, was that night.
It was like, I was a teenager, so it was like visually, sonically overwhelming. Like every band, like everything. But I don't remember the light tips, but I definitely remember the whole entire show, you know?
That was a fun night. The whole day was fun. We partied hard after that. I remember that night. With a bunch of natural lights.
the only way to party.
only the finest.
Yeah, only the finest. My first beer was my best friend Joe Viduccio at the time. He had been drinking hard for like a while, like on some shit that like no kid should be doing. And he was just like, they bought a bunch of Bud Lights and handed it to me. I was 18. I started drinking a little later, and he just looked at me and said, real metalheads chug beer.
Jesus.
And he was dead serious. He was not playing. And I chugged this Bud Light, dude. And ever since that moment, I've been too deep. I've been lost in the sauce.
Now, how is that zombie dust? How was my description? I haven't had one in many years.
Really, really good.
Excellent.
maybe it might be the first 3 Floyds beer I've ever had. I can't remember because like I feel like I've had, especially like going through Chicago, like so many random beers. There's so many good breweries out there, but this might be the first 3 Floyds beer I've ever had. It's great.
I'm a huge fan. As far as description, I didn't know what an undead IPA was, you know, but if this is what they taste like, I'll drink them all the time.
Let's talk about craft beer. Do you guys dive into the rabbit hole of craft beer yet?
For sure. I actually used to work at a brewery.
Really? Which one?
It's called Castle Island Brewing in Massachusetts. So I used to work actually on the canning line and like milling in stuff and doing like helping out with cellar stuff, but it was pretty crazy. It was an interesting career for a little bit. Music kind of got in the way, but it was really cool, and we got exposed to like a lot of really cool beers. It's like gnarly place to work.
Very cool. What would have been you start with the Sierra Nevada, and then what would it be the next beer that really opened your eyes that beer could be more? Although you had a very good place to start because that was where my eyes were open.
I mean, for a while, I feel like I started drinking and I wasn't really attuned to that so much as much as like just like random like basic like liquor store stuff, like oh I guess I'll try Molson, like try Corona, like this that, and I guess like probably the next interesting thing that I had was probably like a Goza or something like that. Actually, the Sierra Nevada Goza that they put out, which was like kind of wasn't really up my alley at the time.
Oh, it's a strange thing if you're used to like a piney IPA and then you get into a weird salty sour thing. It's completely it's almost like off juice.
Yeah, it was very strange. And then I don't know, I got into sours and stuff like that. There's some really good sours. Some of them are too just like they make you pucker too much. It's like fucking what are they, the Warheads?
Yeah.
Some of them are so gnarly, but I like some sours. I like a little bit of everything, honestly. Yeah, I guess. And then I really like the New England IPAs. Like I was like, what the fuck? Like beer can taste like this? Like this is ridiculous and dangerous. Like
Oh yes.
too dangerous.
And you are from Boston, so it is the mecca, or one of the meccas of the hazy IPA craze.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How about you, Mark?
Dude, I'm the kind of dude who just drinks whatever. I gotta be honest. But this man and a few other people are like, they hold me down, and I know exactly what like good ones are and bad ones are. But ultimately, I'll drink whatever.
Excellent. It's that metal hit from the first chug.
Yeah. Ever since, man.
Only chugs.
Let's talk about the soundtracks of your youth. When you were growing up in your parents' or guardians' house, what music was playing when you guys were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
My mom was I got into a lot of shit because of my mom's CD collection. So I would kind of raid her stuff. Between video game soundtracks and her CDs, kind of got me on the path to where I was going, I guess. She's she listened to a lot of punk stuff, as far as like Green Day, or she had Sonic Youth CDs, kind of in that lane. I'd like dig through and find shit like that. And between that and video game soundtracks, that was kind of that kind of was how I found my path of metal and punk and hardcore and all that kind of shit. But yeah.
My parents really didn't listen to music. I remember there was one really emotional time between me and my mom where we were in a grocery store and she showed me music, and she was like, "This is a Beatles CD. This is," and just it was that greatest hits, and it had a #1 on it, and it was really cold, and we listened to it. And that's my only I know that sounds insane. That's my only real memory of music growing up, as far as my parents go. We really didn't have music in the house. It was always I don't know, just the TV playing, or I don't know, my mom was cooking or something like that, but I don't really have any memories like that.
What would be the band that was your band, your first cherished love, that was your band that didn't come from someone else?
NoFX, for sure. Undisputed, just me consciously going, I need to find a piece of music that is different from everything else I'm hearing, because I don't fit in and nothing's working. And going on LimeWire and just digging and digging and digging and digging until, I found a handful of songs by them. Specifically The Decline. That song, it's 17 minutes long. It's absurd. It's the longest song, but it's like an opera, man. It's amazing. That and a few Lagwagon songs. That was my departure from I don't know, normalcy, I guess.
How about you, Andrew?
NoFX was actually up there. That was around probably being 12, 13.
Yeah.
And just being a skateboarding little fucking punk, you know what I mean? And that either NoFX or
I couldn't skateboard. I played video games, but it's same difference.
Nirvana too, for sure. And that Alice in Chains too. I was super fucking into Alice in Chains. That was and then also in hardcore punk in general, because I was in my high school, I got into that basically via Nirvana, and no one else in my high school knew anything about hardcore punk. So I didn't think, between the documentaries where they're it died in '84, and then no one in my school knew what Black Flag or the Circle Jerks or anything was, or Discharge. But there was beatdown hardcore, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is just dead. This is just it's a lost language or something.
Yeah.
So I literally thought that there's no hardcore punk bands anymore at one point.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Take me to the first shows that you guys saw. Do you remember the first live music experience you were at?
Yeah, mine was Less Than Jake. Mine was a ska concert, Catch 22 in Providence, Rhode Island. My mom thought I got hammered because I threw up afterwards, but I was just so tired from moshing. She was so upset.
That's
She's
crazy.
like, Mark, what are you doing? I'm like throwing up in the sink. I'm like, no, it's not. And I swear to God, Mom, if you're watching this, I didn't drink that night. I did not drink. I'm drinking now. Like I'm not like, this is not something I'm trying to hide, you know?
And you, Andrew?
I think mine was Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam in Boston, which is cool. And might have been. I think that was. Yeah, I don't even remember what year that would have been. I was like younger. That was like middle school or like early high school, probably.
Crazy. How about your first time on stage?
Depends what you would consider stage.
I know. My first show, my band covered. We tried to cover. We were a cover band, and we were trying to cover Holy Diver, and we opened with a Bury Your Dead song.
Yes.
And the whole entire crowd just it was a charity concert at my high school.
Of course.
Yeah, just like, you know, just broken. And we opened with this cover, and everyone started. No one even knew what was happening. I don't even know if they were hearing music. They were just running around like hitting each other and just jumping on top of each other. We eventually got kicked off the stage, told we couldn't play anymore, and our whole thing was we were going to play Holy Diver. And we were so excited to play Holy Diver. I was at least so excited to play this fucking song. I worked so hard on this riff, and this guy was like, no, you're out of here. This shit's too crazy. And I started yelling at him. It turned into a huge thing. We got kicked off. Had to write this whole entire paper or a letter to him about why I was sorry, but I wasn't sorry. I was mad that I couldn't play Holy Diver because we played some stupid other song that everyone acted stupid to instead. It was crazy. It was really a wild time. That was my first concert experience.
Wow. Andrew.
Oh man, I got lost in that one.
Lost in the sauce.
The first show I ever played was at it was an open mic event at an IHOP with my
What do you mean? That's insane. At IHOP.
It wasn't.
I was eating pancakes and they were
It
served
wasn't everywhere. It's not an IHOP anymore. Now it's a Mexican restaurant, which I gotta check out. But it was an IHOP, and it was my middle school band, and our singer got grounded, I think, because he got like bad grades or something. So I ended up having to sing, and I was like 12 or 13, and I was just up shit creek, like. Did not know how to sing.
He has been the singer of other bands. He acts like this is crazy. He was singing in bands before I was, clearly. I mean, if that was your first show.
All singing is
yeah.
howling or shouting.
Was that scary?
I guess, yeah. It's funny now because it's just like it's such a like disembodied memory, you know what I mean? And it's like, but yeah, it was crazy.
I love it.
You know?
The IHOP is tough. They're vicious. They'll tear you apart in there.
They don't want the Nirvana covers, you know? They want the Temptations.
Or maybe they want 4 different types of syrup.
Yeah. I can't provide all the syrup.
Yeah. You're just the
band. Something very cool happened in 2020 for you guys. You guys got picked up by Nuclear Blast, which is a huge accomplishment. So congrats on that. One of the world's premier metal labels right there. Talk me through that whole thing.
Dude, I mean, that was like, we were talking to a number of labels, and I think just like deep down in our hearts and in like our stomachs, we really wanted to do Nuclear Blast, and a lot of other people were floating the idea by us. They'd be like, oh, what about Nuclear Blast? Have you talked to them? And we hadn't. And so it started getting planted in our minds a little more, like inch by inch. And then it just kind of became this thing where it was like, I think we really wanted to do it. And then once I spoke to Monty Connor, the artist and relations guy at Nuclear Blast, it really just became like, you know what I mean? Like, it just made sense immediately. He wanted to see Fuming Mouth do something, and I was on the phone with him. I'm like, we're already doing that, you know? And
very cool.
It was just like very much in the same lane. And it's weird because I think everything I'm saying right now happened right before the pandemic. So this had like, you know, there was no idea that this was going to happen. I was on the phone with him talking about it, like, you know, just we were just talking about the things we liked before that happened, and I think him and I and Andrew and everyone else involved really just like have stayed steadfast in our commitments and have really just stayed focused on like what we're doing, and it's the greatest relationship we could ask for.
It's amazing. Excellent to hear. You guys dropped Beyond the Tomb last November. Talk to me about that. You guys probably talked a lot about it. Lots of interviews. Is there something about this EP that you haven't said that you wish that you had?
You know, this is like the first... I mean, you gotta remember, it's coronavirus. I feel like this is the first interview... This is the first interview me and Andrew have done, like, sitting next to each other. Like,
ever?
Yeah, ever. So, like, there's a lot we haven't talked about when it comes to the EP. And, yeah, it was just like... It was like I was saying before, it was like kind of like a commitment thing where we were really focused on doing something. This was before there was ever a virus or anything, and I knew we wanted to do something. The Grand Descent was recorded in the beginning of 2018. It was released in mid 2019. So there was a huge gap in that album. So I knew we had it in us to put music out, so why wouldn't we? That's kind of how I looked at it. And we came back from Finland, and that whole week we just grinded so fucking hard on these 3 songs. So hard, harder than anybody else.
And on the Integrity Tour.
And that was the first time we realized what the next album was going to be, and that's where it really solidified that it's like we're doing this 3-song EP. And that's when we really put it together and really like started to make everything work with those songs. So it's been awesome to put it out. Yeah.
Very cool. Have you guys been using this time at home when we can't go anywhere to work on new material full length?
What else are we going to do? It's been so boring. Yeah, man. Yeah, nonstop. I'm like, I got nothing to do. I guess I'll work on the next album. It seriously feels like that for the first time in my life.
We have nothing but time.
I guess so. Or do we have no time at all and we're fucked?
I love it. Being on Nuclear Blast, is there label mates that you have now that it blows your mind?
Carcass.
There you go.
In Flames, for me personally. Me and Matt Lasco, my roommate in college. If you're watching, dude, we made it. We're label mates with In Flames, dude. Me and him seeing them at 18, going out of our way, smoking joints, trying to just see them. Yeah.
Motorhead.
Oh, is it technically Motorhead?
I'm pretty sure Motorhead, yeah.
At least D-Strode. There's a lot of great talent on Nuclear Blast that we are like not worthy of.
How have you guys been filling the void, not being able to perform, not being able to get that animalistic side of yourself out? How have you been filling that void during this pandemic?
I've been actually driving a truck a lot. It's funny because it's like similar to touring, except none of the fun parts. So it's funny, like getting the fix like that way, where it's like I'm driving around all day at work, and I come home and I'm like, gotta play guitar, like gotta grind on this. But yeah, I don't know. It's that, and just like I've been learning. I've been trying to like just teach myself about like home recording and shit like that, and just like what you would expect, you know, for like just a fucking idiot drunk live guitar player, you know. But fucking,
he's more than that. He's being humble. He's a mastermind. He's working out all the riffs in his head. It's like a mathematical equation. It's like that meme. Nah, it's not like
graphs and figures.
Yeah. No, it is. But and then they all just disappear.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's go dance back into craft beer. If you could make a Fuming Mouth beer with a craft beer brewery, what style of beer would it be, and what would you call it?
We've talked about this a number of times. Whatever it is, it's Fuming Mouth, so it has to be like super hot. Like the smoke has to be
maybe
coming off your tongue. Nah, it's gotta be.
Well, it could be like.
It's gotta be spicy. It's gotta be. We see that you're just like opening up the conversation again. It's like
spicy or it could be smoky.
See, that's the thing. It's like that makes sense, you know. We've literally had this conversation like. When it happens, it's gonna be the sickest fucking beer you've ever had.
Because like I've had spicy beers. Like we even did a spicy beer when I was working at the brewery. We did like a Chipotle aged stout, I think. And I think I would rather have a smoky beer than like a spicy beer.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like it's a weird. I don't know.
I just want to be spicy to fuck people up. You know?
Right? Just like must be this all the ride. Yeah.
What would you call it?
I don't know. What would we call it? The smoke bomb. That's a good one. We'll have a whole line of beers. Smoke bomb.
I feel like we thought of one before, and I can't remember.
We've thought of a name, and I think that's why we're like drawing a blank, because we were like, that's it, that's the one.
It's like trying to remember van talk, you know?
Yeah, it's
like,
very van talk for like an hour. Like, yeah. I like remember that day too. Let's go with smoke bomb. I feel like that's cool. Yeah, well, if it's the smoky one, we'll go with smoke bomb. I want to say fireball, but it's just like, take a shot of fireball. Do something gross. Do something strange that you wouldn't do. Do it for Fuming Mouth. Oh.
Let's wrap this up with a classic wrap-up question at this point. It probably never happens to you, but every once in a while it happens to everyone. What are your hangover cures?
Mine personally is drinking tons of water the night before. It's the only way it works for me. I will crush water. I'll take like at least 2 to 3 hours of being awake that night drinking. I really try to not like drink until I'm asleep, and I really consciously like work for that, and it helps me every morning for whatever I'm drinking.
Excellent suggestion. You, Andrew?
Lemon lime Gatorade, like greasy ass diner breakfast, like Waffle House. Like, go in on Waffle House, choke it down. Usually have to smoke a lot of weed to do that, personally. Between Gatorade, weed, and Waffle House, I feel like that's the only way I can get through, like, a hangover. Or comparable, like, greasy breakfast, you know?
Mark, Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time, having a chat with me, talking about your lives, music, and craft beer. Everyone, Fuming Mouth. Check it out. If you don't know this, you absolutely should. Beyond the Tomb dropped last November, and it's insane. They got some new stuff coming up, too, from all of the time they do or don't have on their hands. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Cheers.
Cheers, homie.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Fuming Mouth are one of those new generation extreme metal bands that I adore. They are gaining ground, and they are a very exciting band. I love their energy. I love the way that they approach songwriting. They are ferocious, and I love them, and I would love to get them out on the road with Cryptopsy one day in the future. Massive cheers to Mark and Andrew. Super stoked I had the chance to have a chat with you guys. If you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should follow it on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, you should also rate it and write a review, because when you do that, more people just like yourself will be able to discover the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You should also sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXandHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened throughout the past week in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Do yourself a favor, sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. Trust me, this is a party that you do not want to miss. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought brought to you by Sound Talent Media. I hope you have a glorious weekend. I know that I'm going to. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that you guys get the time to relax and recuperate and get ready for another epic week. I will be back next week with 2 episodes, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.